A week ago, the Walt Disney Company decided to send out another dud to the theatrical box office by the way of Elio from Pixar, following a long line of newly coined Pixar tradition of box office flops, with exceptions to things like Inside Out 2. But Elio was something of a special monster, something that we all knew had been worked, reworked again, reworked a third and fourth time, until Disney finally just plopped it out in the box office to a massive failure. This movie alone will probably lose Disney somewhere to the tune of $300 million this year, but frankly, that's not the whole story.
That's according to a number crunch by prominent YouTuber Valiant Renegade, who argues that many of Disney's recent so-called hits barely broke even or flat out tanked.
Because now, confirmed by The Hollywood Reporter, Elio was everything that we thought it was originally intended to be. Gay. That's right, another in a long list of grooming properties for kids by the Walt Disney Company. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see all of you out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias. And of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and Wednesday afternoon right here for the live show at 6 p.m. Eastern. Inside Elio's catastrophic path, America Ferrera's exit, director change, and erasure of queer themes. Now, if there's one thing the Walt Disney Company has been consistent at in the last 4 to 5 years, especially post-COVID, it has been injecting LGBTQ social politics into damn near every children's property that they could possibly get their hands on. Just go back and watch Disney's own Reimagine Tomorrow videos that leaked, where all the creative executives said that is exactly what they were trying to do. If you don't believe me, let's go take a walk down memory lane.
Meredith Roberts and our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda, and sense of I don't have to be afraid to let's have these two characters kiss. Let's in the background. I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud family. But I just was no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me.
In 2022, same-sex kiss was restored in Pixar's Lightyear, following that would be Pixar staff uproar over the Don't Say Gay bill, or really what it was actually called, the House Bill 1557 in Florida, the Parental Rights and Education Bill. But again, this was another clever name that the social politicians at Pixar that wanted to get their hands on your kids and stuff them full of their own politics, well, yeah, marketing. Or how about Strange World in November of the same year that Lightyear came out and miserably flopped in theaters in the middle of summer when every kid was out of school, connected to the most popular franchise that Pixar has ever had. That would be Toy Story. Now, Strange World cast in creators on the Disney film's biracial LGBTQ character. You don't have to normalize normal, it's just us. Once again, Disney is completely disconnected with American families. And apparently, their entire focus groups that they base all of their movies and opinions on come from God knows where in the hellhole of Los Angeles, California, an area that probably least represents anything remotely American.
But wait, there's more.
Disney, just last year, in December, as a matter of fact, had yet another brand new Pixar, Disney, animated, whatever, it's all the same now, property for Disney Plus. And that was in the Disney Plus show Win or Lose, an animated series meant for children once again, where Disney, under pressure, finally at this point realizing that the poop had hit the fan and that America was tired of having their children groomed by a children's entertainment company. Parents were tired of suffering through the distrust of the Walt Disney Company, something that the Wall Street analysts out there seem unable or unwilling to admit publicly. Well, they pulled a transgender storyline that was meant for that television show, because God knows what the backlash would have been at that point, but at least Disney was waking up. And now we have this one, something that, quite frankly, everybody knew, even without a shred of evidence, even with nothing more than rumor and innuendo. Well, now there's confirmation, because now Elio, the movie that's bombing at the box office for Disney Pixar, the movie that's going to lose Disney $300 million because, yeah, the budget might have been $150 million, but even according to this article's own admission, Disney basically shot the damn thing twice. Yeah, that's why it's going to be closer to $300 million, and they're going to lose every penny of it, because the only thing that Disney is going to be making back from the box office is a portion of what they spent to market this movie, above and beyond the $300 million they spent to finally fart this one out. According to The Hollywood Reporter, creatives at Pixar who saw the original director's previous cut of Elio tell THR about the movie's challenging production process. Elio just became about totally nothing. Probably because originally it was meant to be about totally gay. Now, the article goes into a bit of the history of Elio, something that we've covered here numerous times. I'm not going to relitigate the entire process, but needless to say that this was a very different movie when the original trailers first came out a year and a half ago. That's right, for the people that forgot, didn't know, or frankly, didn't give a damn because it was another Disney Pixar original pile of poo. Well, yes, there were original trailers that came out 18 months ago of a very, very different movie than the one that we're seeing now, or as I should say, the one that nobody is seeing now. In other words, Disney popped the trailer out, people reacted to it, at least the limited number of ones that did react to it, and were aghast at what they saw. It looked like trash. Disney pulled it, rescheduled it for 18 months later, that just came out a week ago here in the summer of 2025, and the damn thing still tanked badly. Big surprise this day and age for the Walt Disney Company, who keeps claiming that they are the biggest, baddest, and best storytellers in all of Hollywood, and yet never seem to be able to back this up. If you bought a ticket to Elio and don't remember seeing this, it's not that you chose the wrong time to refill your soda. According to multiple insiders who spoke to The Hollywood Reporter, Elio was initially portrayed as a queer-coded character. Oh my God. No surprise. Reflecting original director Adrian Molina's identity as an openly gay filmmaker. Let's stop right the hell there. I am sick and tired of Hollywood studios, especially ones like Disney, allowing directors to come in and, instead of telling an actually good story that is going to appeal to the largest audience possible, especially when these ass clowns are handed $200+ million production budgets and letting them do self-inserts again and again and again to have their own personal therapeutic catharsis on a $200 million screen is insane. I'm sorry, Disney, you're a publicly traded company. And I'm sorry, Wall Street, it's time to get your head out of your ass and start doing your job with people like Bob Iger, who frankly are incapable of running this company, and they have been for some time. Just ask yourself what's happened to Star Wars since 2012. Everything has been a Kathleen Kennedy insert or another Lucasfilm feminist story group self-insert. Every single damn thing there, with the exception of The Mandalorian, arguably the only successful thing that Disney has managed because it appealed to the male audiences and didn't try to insert politics, at least in the first 2 seasons. It was rewarded handily for it. But Disney seems very, very slow to ever learn its lesson, and Wall Street doesn't seem to care. Other sources, however, say that Molina did not intend the film to be a coming-out story, as the character is 11. Au contraire, when you're telling me that even folks like the Walt Disney Company will have pride parades in the park that are quote-unquote family-friendly, and we've seen what some of these things look like, albeit the most egregious examples may not be taking place on Disney property, but I think we've all seen the videos out there in places like Fruity, California, where you have a bunch of grown men marching down the street, butt naked, shaking their junk in children's faces, and nobody seems to mind. Elio's turbulent ride began well before its calamitous nosedive at the box office during the June 2022 corridor. Indeed, the summer of 23 became a fateful one for the animated film about a lonely boy beamed into outer space by an intergalactic organization after being misidentified as the leader of Earth. Sounds great, doesn't it? The writing was first on the wall for the troubled production when the film from Molina, known as the co-director of Pixar's Oscar-winning 2017 hit Coco. And it's a good time to remind everybody that the big difference between Coco in 2017 and any movie since then, 2 words, John Lasseter, because that was John Lasseter's last film that he was in charge of at Pixar and the Walt Disney Company at large. And since then, we have seen every film that has gone into pre-production and greenlit since that point has been overwhelmingly hot trash. The heart and soul of Disney is gone. There's no talent left there, and we wind up with nothing more than LGBTQ social politics grooming for kids. It was around the same time that Molina screened his latest cut of the film to Pixar leadership. There are differing accounts of the exact feedback the director received from Pete Docter, the Pixar boss, when the lights went up, with rumors circulating in some of the studio circles that Molina was hurt by the conversation. The part that is clear is that Molina exited the project soon after, and much of Elio was reworked under new co-directors Madeline Shafarian and Dome Shi. Now, credit where credit is due. Pete Docter has been much more of a hawk when it comes to the politics that his staff at Pixar have been constantly trying to shove into every project that they do. The problem is that, yeah, I know you're thinking, well, wait, Pete Docter's the head of the studio, right? Why doesn't he just push a button and make it happen? Well, you could ask the same question of Bob Chapek, Disney's former CEO, before and, frankly, after Bob Iger. See, Chapek ran into the same problems. Remember that Reimagine Tomorrow leaked video set that we talked about earlier in this conversation? Yeah, Bob Chapek was a victim of that, with a political gun pointed at his head, forced to do a mea culpa in front of all of Disney's staff for having the temerity of trying to keep Disney out of Florida's politics and, quite frankly, keep Disney out of the LGBTQ conversation because it's a freaking kids' entertainment company. He was fired for that. After a year-long delay, the film arrived in theaters June 22nd and bombed. Even Hollywood says bombed. After just a $20 million domestic score, about $35 million globally. So yeah, the international markets didn't help it any either. The lowest opening frame at the box office in Pixar's history. And that is not even adjusting for inflation, which is even more terrifying. I was deeply saddened and aggrieved by the changes that were made, says former Pixar assistant editor Sarah Who Gives a Shit, who provided feedback during Elio production as a member of the company's internal LGBTQ group Pix Pride. And there it is, the queer groomers inside Pixar all upset that the queer stuff was taken out. Because you know what? If you're an adult and you want to go live your life and do what you want to do, nobody gives a rat's ass. But when you want to start taking your lifestyles, your sexual lifestyles, and presenting them to 5-year-olds, yes, America is going to get pissed the fuck off and they are going to shut you down. The exodus of talent after that cut was really indicative of how unhappy a lot of people were that they had changed and destroyed this beautiful work. If the exodus of Pixar's queer group was the result of Pete Docter stepping in and saying hell no to this, then it is the greatest exodus of no talent people in the history of the Walt Disney Company. Another Pixar source disputes that people stepped down, but I'm sure they did. Another Pixar artist said it was pretty clear through the production of the first version of the film that Pixar, the leaders, were constantly sanding down these moments in the film that alluded to Elio's sexuality of being queer. No doubt this was due to the fact that they had just finished watching what happened with Lightyear and Strange World for doing the same damn thing. Disney and Pixar leadership made the mistake previously of listening to these psychopaths at Pixar, these social, political nut jobs at Pixar that wanted to stick this in children's products, and they let them put the thing back in Lightyear, which turned out to be an absolute financial disaster. A short time later, Pixar announced that internally that the director and co-writer of Turning Red would jump in to redo Elio basically from scratch. This is how we went from $150 million to closer to $300 million in production on this thing. And you know what? None of it mattered because this kid got no love at the box office. It's a shame. This is what happens to $300 million in the hands of political activists, or I should be more specific, radical left-wing political activists. But hey, Disney, shareholders, Wall Street, it's your money, right? Y'all want to keep pissing it away, go right ahead. We'll just keep laughing at you from the bleachers. But according to THR, they asked the simple question, did the decisions to downplay Elio's queer themes actually come from the parent company, from Disney? Insiders aren't so sure. Quote, a lot of people like to blame Disney, but the call is coming from inside the house, says the artist. A lot of it is obeying in advance behavior coming from the higher execs at Pixar. This person cites such examples as next year's animated feature Hoppers having to tone down the themes of environmentalism, and also reveals that a movie in early development got a startling note, quote, that the director was told, you can't have divorce in this movie, which is so wild. A different source with knowledge of the project downplays the notion of this representing major meddling and sees such suggestions as typical of any early development process, noting there was no mandate prohibiting divorce. Let me tell you what I see here. I see somebody like Pete Docter, who might be the lone hero at the Walt Disney Company right now, that finally, after being given carte blanche to go ahead and fix what was going on at the studio through one method or another, maybe it was a conversation with Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, the chairman of the studio production side of Walt Disney when it comes to theatrical releases, who sat with Pete Docter and said, we've had too many flops in a row. Your job is on the line. And Pete Docter simply turned around and said, okay, guys, then let me do what I need to do and stay the hell out of my way and give me a chance to give you something that works. Because the people that have been hired in the studio that I didn't necessarily have a hand in are completely burning it to the ground to put in all of their crazy radical left-wing politics. And quite frankly, American parents are not interested in themselves being preached at by a freaking entertainment company, but they're certainly not interested in having their children lectured to and groomed by a bunch of Burbank fruit bags. Again, we're going to have to demand that Wall Street actually nut up instead of shutting up like they always do, pretending that they don't understand the problem at Disney and making such ridiculous statements, including Wall Street analysts that think, well, original animation is just dead. Audiences don't want it. It's their fault. It's one of the most absolutely retarded things I've ever read in my life, and it shows either a willful misunderstanding or a complete lack of capacity of understanding of what the real problems are at places like Disney. It's not the audiences, stupid. It's the fact that Disney has pissed them off to such a point that they simply don't trust these Hollywood companies anymore. Good luck. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.